making sure they're fulfilling any of those requirements. We want to introduce them early to their campus community, those organizations, those resources, those experts on campus. And then, of course, we're going to have some fun. We are going to make sure that they meet students, they meet their orientation leaders, and they'll have an orientation leader hosting them throughout the day. And click to my next slide. Okay, so why is this important for our students? A little bit of college education for us all this morning. There are actually student involvement theories. We won't go too in depth, but we have some theorists, Aston and Tinto, and many others that show, grounded in research and data, that the ability of a new student to succeed academically and integrate socially is driven through their participation in programs like orientation. And so making sure we're giving our students all the options available to them and their best foot forward, this program is going to provide them with that stability, with that grounded support so that they can succeed. So is orientation, is it for your student and will it make a difference? Yes, it absolutely will make a difference. It will be very important to their success. And will it be required of them? We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Okay, the other question we get a lot is, should I, as a parent, family member, or guest, attend orientation with my student? And that answer is maybe. So we do have a parent and family orientation program designed for you all as family members and support systems. And so if your student is the type of student that's going to need some support, or you as a family member need that in your transition, then this will be a program for you. Is it required for family members or guests to attend? No, but we do have a program designed for you and highly encourage you to attend. So if you do decide to attend, and we'll talk about how to register and all those things and how to get situated in a little bit, but as a family member, if you do choose to attend, your program, unlike your students, is just a one-step program. You will be attending with your student in person. We do not have a virtual program for parents and family members, but we do have in-person sessions available. There is no pre or post for you, that is just for the students. But our day of program will provide you with specially designed presentations about campus departments, resources, the academic colleges and deans, and how you can best support your student. We also, throughout the day and throughout the sessions, will give you a great understanding of FERPA, which is a fancy term for a privacy act that protects both you and your student and kind of clarifies what rights you have, either to like your students' grades or how their financials and things like that, or the privacy that protects your students and the access you're not going to have unless certain things happen, certain paperwork is placed. Each department and resource has different procedures. But as parents, it's hard for us to kind of understand where those privacy acts start and end, and making sure that that is very clear to you at orientation and how we can get you connected and what rights and privacy things you and your student both have. We're also going to provide you a lot of insights on what your student's going to go through, how they're going to navigate through things in ways that you can support them. But there's also a space for you here at Sam Houston. We have a great support system, a family program, parent and family associations. There's lots of ways to plug in, clubs, organizations, and ways that you as a parent or family member can get connected to this community that is built for you as well. You will also get a special VIP orientation leader to host you throughout the day. So we don't leave you out. The students don't get their own, they get their own orientation leader, and so will you. Again, those benefits for you attending the program is your opportunity to learn about our campus resources. It's a healthy way to support your student. We're definitely going to discourage lots of helicopter parenting, but if that is your style, how we can help you support your student in a healthy way moving forward. And then one of the biggest things is there's going to have to be a lot of conversations that you and your students establish from now up and through their college experience. And so it's a great way to get those conversations started, what your student's going to do, how they're going to get involved, things you'd like them to take advice of or not. So those hard conversations, we're going to help start navigating those conversations. Is there a cost associated for you to attend? We'll talk about the student fee in just a little bit, but yes, there is a cost associated with attending as a parent, family member, or guest. The initial fee is a $50 fee for the first parent or guest. Any additional guests, so if you end up bringing mom and then auntie and then also stepdad wants to come, the first guest is $50. Each additional guest is $30. That fee includes like our programming, our staffing. You'll receive a parent tote bag, some resources like a workbook, lanyard, name tag, and then it covers all of your meal, your refreshments, and of course it's priceless time with your student, very valuable time. So we've talked about a lot of things pertaining to what you can kind of expect as a parent and family member and why it might be important for your student to attend, but is it going to be required for your student to attend? If your student is a freshman, if they are graduating within the 2021-2022 academic year, they are a freshman, a first-time freshman, and are required to attend the orientation program. So it is a requirement. If your student is a transfer student, they have graduated prior to May 2021, they are not required, but we still strongly encourage them to attend, because while they might have attended college or courses elsewhere, getting acclimated to college life here at Sam Houston will be different. At the bottom of my slide, you can see that some freshmen, even if they've graduated, they're going to graduate this May in a couple of weeks, and maybe they have APA or dual credit courses, and they technically on paper are a transfer, they are still a first-time freshman. So if your student is graduating in May, has graduated this past December, and they have some college transfer credits, that's great, but they are still considered a freshman and are required to attend. How do we get registered, right? So registration is required for orientations. We have a registration portal. It is super easy to access. We have it in our guidebook app, which Brian will talk about. We have it on our webpage, but to get directly to our registration system, you'll just simply join orientation.shsu.edu, and it takes you right to our portal. As a family member and a parent, you do not have access to our portal. Only your student can access it, and they can access it with their Sam Houston username and password. They will log in, and this is the screen that they will see. It'll give them a quick welcome and an overview of the program. They'll continue through to their registration, and their screen will look something like this. They will get a screen that shows them the dates available to them. So if they are a freshman, they will only be able to see the freshman dates and sessions available to them. And if they're a transfer student, they will only see the sessions available to them as a transfer student. They will select their date and their preference. So we'll talk about the dates and the modalities, but we will have a few virtual sessions, but we highly encourage the in-person experience because it is a much more comprehensive program. The virtual program is still great, but for the full amazing full-fledged experience, the in-person session is really the way to go. The orientation, once they select their session, they get to this registration page. They're required to fill out their emergency contact information, give us their shirt size, list any accommodations if they have any allergies or gluten intolerances, ADA compliance, or any type of accommodation and needs. We would like them to put that there so we can make sure to accommodate them before their session. There is a $140 fee associated with their orientation. And then at the bottom, you can kind of see the parent and family member guest section. This is where your student is responsible for registering you as a guest. You don't have your own portal to sign up for orientation. It will happen through this student's registration. Registration is not complete, and their spot for the session is not reserved until they have completed the entire registration and paid the orientation fee. So if we decide that the student wants to register and we're not 100% sure if you, the parent, wants to go, that is fine. Have your student reserve their spot, pay their orientation fee, and you can always come back into the system later and add guests as needed. If your student decides to switch to a different session, that is fine too. They can always log back in they can only switch in between the sessions that they have already chosen. So if they picked an in-person, they can switch between all the other in-person sessions. If they choose a virtual session and then want to come in person, that's fine. They can't do that through our system. They'll have to call our office and we'll help walk them through that process. And we'll give you our contact information at the very end. Small caveat, if any students have trouble paying for the cost of orientation, our office can be contacted and we can help them complete a fee deferment form. And what that means is we are then given permission from your student to defer their fee and add it to their tuition and fee statement. And then it'll be applied to their tuition and fees that are due, just like paying for classes. The only thing with that is we are unable to add the parent or guest fee to the tuition and fee statement. So those fees have to be paid at the time they're registered. But the student fees can be added to the tuition and fee statement if there is any trouble paying for orientation. Once they fully complete registration, and again, their spot is not saved until they pay. So if they X out and they don't finish the process, their spot is not reserved. But once they are paid and reserved and registered and all the good things, our registration page will take them to our Next Steps website. The Next Steps website is important because we're talking about all the things that your students are going to want to take care of prior to orientation. So I know Amanda has done some other Zoom series with some of these other departments, but a requirement of students living on campus is submitting proof of their meningitis vaccination through their patient portal, making sure they are TSI or Texas State Initiative complete. We offer to students to get advised early. Advising for freshmen is already open, and those spots are filling up quick. While we will have some enrollment lab time that Brian will speak a little bit about later in the program, there's not specific times for your student to set up being advised in orientation. So we highly, highly, highly encourage your student to do that now or as soon as possible. Registration for classes opens for freshmen next week. And classes are a first come, first serve situation. So the sooner your students can sign up for classes, the more likely they'll get their ideal schedule. So making sure that they can do that well before orientation if they'd like. And then there's time in orientation for them to ask any questions about class scheduling or concerns that they might have, and time to switch classes. But to get the best ideal class schedule, the sooner they can get advised and registered, the better. Our pre-orientation I touched on a little bit. That is also a requirement of the orientation program. That'll open up in May, and your students will receive an email after they've registered for their orientation on how to get to it and how to access it. And then again, if they have any other questions between now and orientation, our website has that information for them as well. So they've moved on to next steps. It's May and they're getting their email about pre-orientation or whenever they end up registering for orientation. Step one we talked about is their pre-orientation requirement. They will receive an email that says how to access it and the requirements of it being completed 2 weeks prior to their in-person or virtual orientation experience. They would log into their Blackboard account. The email will give them directions on where they can find this pre-orientation module. But this module is an interactive video and quizzed module that provides your student with information they're going to need before orientation. So they'll get a welcome from our department and our staff. They'll get information on tips and tricks of accessing their student account through IT at SAM. They're going to get information from Residence Life and Dining Services to ensure that they're getting their residence hall and their meal plan situated well before orientation. Some national requirements of our program are to make sure that your students are safe and well aware of their resources in the health and counseling departments. So the Health and Counseling Center here on campus helps cover things like our suicide prevention and crisis hotlines. So giving them access to that very early, and then them also understanding their reporting rights through Title IX. We want to keep our students safe, and prevention is key. And so we give them these resources pretty early in their journey so that they are well equipped with any information they might need. Again, each step of this module, there are quizzes. They do have to complete it fully and pass all the quizzes. They can always go back and use this as an additional resource if needed. It's full of great information and great content. that they can access, but it is required to be completed 2 weeks prior to their orientation session. Lots of questions about dates, right? We've talked about registration. We've talked about why. Let's talk about when. So all of the dates for our orientation session are here and are also found on our website. So we have several sessions. They are 1-day in-person sessions. So in addition to their pre-orientation, they will attend an in-person 1-day or a virtual 1-day session. As you can see, we have many in-person sessions available, not too many virtual, because again, to get the whole comprehensive program, the in-person program is that full experience. So all the dates are available. For freshmen, you can see it's denoted with an F, and for transfer, it is a red T. Those virtual sessions are a combined freshman and transfer experience. And then I put the capacity on here for you all. The capacity isn't too crazy just yet, except for that very first in-person session is at 70% capacity. We were talking with our staff earlier this week, and as soon as high school graduations start happening, we see a huge spike in our registration numbers. So do not wait until the last minute to register your student for their preferred session, because they will fill up fast. And I would not plan on waiting to the last July sessions. Those people think, oh, we have time, we'll wait. And then those sessions get super full and they've already missed the June sessions because those dates have passed, and then there are no spaces for them. So if you and your student want to get the date that works best for your summer schedule, I would recommend registering for orientation as soon as possible, very early and often. These days the check-in starts right at 7:30 and our day kind of ends around 5 or 6. There's some things that go into the evening, but not too late. Brian will talk a little bit about the schedule in a little bit, but again, these are full day, 7:30 to 5 p.m. We will provide refreshments and lunch and all the great things. The virtual day is a little bit shorter. It starts later in the morning, I believe around 10, and ends around 2 or 3 approximately. Don't quote me, it's still tentative. But the in-person days are check-in starts at 7:30. The program starts at 8:30 and wraps up around 5. Right, and so I'm going to hand it off to Brian because we've talked a lot about what you all will need logistically. Brian's going to talk to us a little bit more about what this program is about and how we actually pull it off.
Thank you, Rachel. So like she said, she gave you guys a lot of information on why we do a lot of the things that we do. And leading into that, I just want to provide some more guidance for you guys just to see what your students will expect day of, and then also what you can expect day of coming to our orientation. But before we get started, I know I was answering a couple of questions in the chat via private message. So I hope that I got those answers out to you guys, but I made some notes of them, and at the end of the session, we can definitely hit those as well. So leading into that, I want to just talk a little bit about our orientation team and the staff that we have hired and how they go through the training process to ensure they provide you with the most up-to-date information and able to get you those resources on campus. So if it'll move forward for me. Not sure if it's letting me switch slides, Rachel, so do you mind switching it for me?
Gave back my control to Amanda, so I'm going to throw it to Amanda to click the little arrow buttons. Here we go.
Thank you, Amanda. So first, I want to start with 3 of my leads that I have, our orientation team leaders that we call our OTLs. They are Lawrence Thomas, Mackenzie Boyd, and Nicholas Free. They are kind of the ones we go to assist with the training process. So as past orientation leaders themselves, we provide just a very intentional training process for our incoming orientation leaders. Like I said, just to ensure that they have the most up-to-date information. They are knowledgeable about our campus resources, and they're able to provide you with that information for you and your students. Moving on to our orientation leaders, though, just kind of what is their role being an orientation leader? So they are there to just give you the tips and tricks, the ins and outs across campus. As you can see, we are a very diverse group. our orientation leaders, trying to brag on them just a little bit. Hopefully they get a little gassed up hearing about this through the air, but they are involved in so many different organizations across campus, hold different leadership roles within those organizations. We have some SAMI nominees and SAMI winners on our team. So they're very important people across campus. But why are they so important? So like I said, or like Rachel said earlier, your students will be split up into their orientation teams and their groups, roughly of about 20-ish other students coming into Sam Houston State, and they'll be paired with these 2 orientation leaders. So what does that mean? If your student does not develop any type of relationships with any of these students in their orientation groups, which is highly unlikely, but it does happen, they do have 2 familiar faces that they will see across campus. Like I said, they're highly involved on their different organizations and in their own corresponding majors. So they are able to just kind of provide that safe space for your student. They're able to connect with them. And like I said, they'll be across campus at different events. And again, they're friendly faces that your students will have that support system while they're here at Sam Houston. Rachel hit a little bit on that research piece. It's very obvious that a student succeeds better on campus when they develop that support system, whether it be with different organizations or whether it just be just one friend on campus. These orientation leaders will be that next step on providing that support system and ensuring that your student is successful. You can go to the next slide, right? Amanda, thank you. So how can you stay connected with our program leading up to orientation? We have a whole lot of different ways. First, it's the 21st century. So if you want to grab your phone and start following us on our Instagram, our handle is SHSU Orientation. We provide information coming up to that orientation date. We also have information going on across campus. So just because orientation has ended, you're now in that fall semester, you'll be able to see kind of what's going on the campus that your student is at. And ensure that they stay involved, you're able to stay involved yourself, and just kind of see all the things. Next, we have our website, obviously the shsu.edu/orientation. Here you can register for that. You can see different things going on. You can explore the Sam Houston website itself. That's a great resource. And then lastly, we do have our guidebook app that is currently being updated. So here's a good QR code if you want to pull out your phone and start downloading that. So it's desktop friendly. You can also download it on any iPhone, Apple devices, and any Android device. So any smart device, you're able to download that. And this will lead into our orientation session. We are making it a year-long resource for your students, for any Bearkat families and any supporters of our Bearkat community. We want to ensure that you're able to kind of see what's going on campus. And like I said, it's a very good resource. They provide different contacts to things like that. And then go to the next slide, Amanda. Just a couple of screenshots I provided that what this guidebook app has to offer. So first, when you download it, you'll be able to see our Bearkat orientation, and it provides just a little insight of what our program is generally. It doesn't provide, that first page does not provide what your specific orientation day will look like. Playing around with the app, our biggest tool that we're looking at right now is our campus contacts. So here you'll be able to see a bunch of the resources and programs that we will be talking about day of at orientation, things your students will learn about during pre and post orientation. But you'll just be able to kind of read a little bio. It's a very quick one-stop shop to kind of see what is going on campus. It'll give you their missions, their values, all of that within this. And then it provides contacts if you have any questions for that corresponding program, you'll be able to kind of see that. Moving forward to the last thing, we have a sample. Oh, go back one more time, Amanda, sorry. Last thing with that guidebook app, you'll be able to see the sample student set schedule. We also have the parent schedule on there right now. Again, it's just a sample, it's still tentative. There could be some minor changes that happen to it, but just looking at that schedule moving forward, you guys will all start together with your students. With the check-in, there will be some snacks provided that you'll be able to kind of get the day of program. So we're going to go over just an overview of what the day is going to look like morning of. From there, you'll be able to go into the Meet Your Dean session. You'll spend a little bit of time with your student. They'll be able to meet their corresponding dean for their college and major, leading into getting all of that registration and advising questions answered, financial aid questions, and all the things. Then you're going to progress over to some educational sessions that you and your student will go to, designed specifically for that population. So we have a parent section, we also have a student section. So you'll be getting the same information as your student, but again, we're designing this program more intentionally to meet those populations that they'll be presenting to. Some things that they'll be learning about are the importance of their Bearkat One card, their student ID, why that card is so important and why they need to get it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Financial aid, how are they going to pay for college, right? How are you guys going to support them with that? If y'all are going to be paying for their college, if they're going to be taking out loans, financially, we'll be able to answer a lot of those questions. Then we'll also be looking at what in the world can they do with this degree? Are their life goals, everything lining up with this degree path that they have chosen? If not, they can meet with career services and see where their kind of interest lies. If they are put in a degree that they just selected a degree that they thought they had that passion for and later on realize they don't, this is the time to get those questions answered. Then later on that day, we will also have an organization and program fair. So like I said, on this campus contacts, a lot of those orgs and programs are on there, but a lot of them are not. And with that being said, is there's so many different organizations on campus to get your student involved. There are different things that you as parents and families and supporters can also be involved with as well across campus, even though you're not a student here. There's just a lot of different things to provide that support system for your student. And like I said, the research shows the more involved, the more support they have on campus, the more successful they will be as a student leading into that young professional. And then we'll end the day, we'll be able to have some lunch together, meet back up, divide and conquer, get all the information across campus for your student. But again, this will be a really great resource so you can start looking ahead, planning your orientation session. That way you can make the most out of that 1 day segment. Come prepared with your questions, make sure they all get answered, but do not feel like that's the only time you'll be able to get those questions answered. You can definitely reach out and ask if something comes up later. Amanda, if you can go to the last slide for us. So what's next, right? You've heard all this great information from myself and Rachel. If you've been on these family Zoom series a couple times, you've heard a lot of great things from Amanda and different campus partners. So what in the world do we do next, Brian? Like, what do we do? First, register for that Bearkat orientation. We provided the links for that. If you get off this, you're like, oh my gosh, what is that link? Bearkat orientation, Google it, it'll pop up, I promise you. From there, we're asking that your students check their Sam Houston email account often. Once they have been accepted to Sam Houston, 99.9% of the communication is going to go directly to that Sam Houston email. It's not going to go to their personal email. So check it often, 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 often. Once they have registered for that orientation, that's where you'll get the information leading up to their session about their pre-orientation, what to expect day of. They'll get to meet their orientation leaders, get a little bio about them, and just have that familiar face. So check it often. After that, we highly recommend that your student be advised and registered for classes before their orientation session. I know Rachel hit on this just a little bit earlier. I know there were some questions about it in the chat. There are sections in our orientation program to where they can meet with advisors and meet with financial aid counselors and all of that stuff. But that portion of the program is really designed to answer questions. To get the most out of your orientation day, we highly recommend that you come with your student already advised and registered, just so that's one less thing they have to worry about, right? They can come in, they can get the information, get all of their questions answered about corresponding programs, organizations, everything across campus. And like I said, that's one less thing to worry about. Classes fill up rapidly. Being a graduate from Sam Houston, I know they fill up so fast, so you want to get registered as soon as possible. Once all that is complete, you're checking your Sam Houston email. We ask that you complete that pre-orientation portion of the program 2 weeks prior to your session. If for any reason you register just a little bit later, complete it quickly as possible. It's pre-orientation, complete it before you get here, and make sure you know that information as well. And then next, look out for session details. Again, checking that Sam Houston email, you'll be able to kind of see some details leading up to the orientation program, what to expect. And again, plan ahead, make sure you're coming down with your questions ready to go. That way you get the most out of that experience. And lastly, I hope you guys are finally excited about your student choosing Sam Houston, coming to be a Bearkat. I know I'm excited. I'm excited to see all the fresh new faces here on campus. Hopefully some potential orientation leaders want to come back and just be a part of that great program that we have running.
All right, and so that is the information that we have for you all. We will take questions in just a minute because I still see a whole bunch in the chat. Again, Brian and I are super thankful that Amanda invited us into this Zoom presentation today. Orientation is a program that is near and dear to our hearts, and our passion is to really serve students. We know you're still going to have a lot of questions. That was a lot of information. So we do have our information here for you. Feel free to contact our office. We have some amazing students that also work with Amanda, whether they're accepted student mentors or the Bearkat orientation leaders. Feel free to call us at 936-294-1782. We are open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you feel more comfortable emailing us, it's at orientation@shsu.edu. And then connect with us on Instagram. A little bit earlier, Brian mentioned our Instagram is at SHSU Orientation. Students love to chat questions in the post, send DMs. We post a lot about upcoming events and any other details. We also do Instagram Lives. So make sure that you are connected to our Instagram. And then if you happen to be on campus taking a tour, we are here on campus on the second floor of the Visitor Center, which is 1905 University Avenue here in Huntsville. So we're going to take a couple of questions. Brian, if you also want to help me out. One of the first questions I saw was that, will there be time to see our residence hall during orientation? Something different we're doing this year. After lunch and in the afternoon sessions, the program moves to a conference style format where there are informational sessions from departments and resources that, depending on what is most important information that you and your student need, you can choose to attend one of those informational sessions. There's 3 different chances to do so. Also, while that's happening, our organization and department fair will have tables and it'll be filled the ballroom with resources that they can walk around and talk to. Other options are the Residence Life open houses. So while there is no tour, the Residence Life staff will have various different residence halls open, and through signage and the help of our orientation leaders, depending on the styles, whether it's apartment style, semi-private, private, the different residence hall styles, those styles will be open. So you won't be able to see your student's specific room. You might not even be able to see their specific residence hall, but all the styles of the rooms will be available for you to, at your leisure, walk in, see, ask a few questions to the Residence Life staff, and then go back to the program and whatever you'd like. There also will not be formal campus tours, but we will have our amazing self-guided campus tour option available to you, where our staff can provide you with the pamphlet and the directions on how to fulfill the self-guided tour, and the QR code that helps you with each and every step. There's QR codes on campus. It's a really great resource. Another question I saw was about APA credits. I might have given some confusion, so I'll clarify. Whether your student has APA credits or dual credits or is coming in with transfer credits, if they are a student in high school within the 2021-2022 academic school year, so this school year, and they're graduating in May, they are considered a freshman. So even if they get APA credits or whatever those extra credits are, they are still a freshman, a first-time freshman, and are required to attend freshman orientation. How to register for classes was a question. Amanda, I'm going to ask you for some help, but I know that to be advised or to register for your classes, first, a student has to be advised. So make sure your student has made an advising appointment and fulfilled that requirement. The TSI requirements have to also be completed. So Texas State Initiative complete. And then your student can register for their classes through their registration portal. Amanda, did you already do a family Zoom series on those resources?
We did. We had one last month, the month before, that was over advising and registration. And that is actually, that recording has been uploaded onto our website. If you wanted to go back and watch that one just to get that extra information about advising and registration, You can find that on the website. I'll drop the link in the chat, but if you just type in family Zoom series on the Sam Houston webpage on the search bar, it'll take you to those recordings. I believe I need to check the calendar for freshmen as far as being able to register if they've been advised and their TSI has been taken care of. We are on April 14th. I don't believe it's open quite yet for freshmen to register. I need to double check that date. But it is this month, I think just in another week when freshmen will be able to register for classes.
Someone asked about their student not being TSI complete just yet and that their advisor couldn't meet with them. Amanda, can students make their advising appointment and just making it, far enough in advance that they make sure they get TSI complete in the meantime, but can they still set their appointment?
Yes, you can still set your appointment, and like while you're waiting for that actual appointment, you can be, reaching out to the TSI team with the registrar's office. If you need to actually take the TSI test, you can kind of do that in that time. But for the actual advising appointment, the advisor will not be able to advise you on what classes to take without knowing that TSI information and having that on file.
Awesome. I have a question about hotel suggestions. This was great. I meant to touch base on this and I didn't, so I apologize. So we know that students and families are coming from all across the country, and what's bigger than the country of Texas, right? No, I'm kidding. But the state of Texas is really big. So if you are traveling in for our orientation programs, we don't provide housing or yes, we don't provide accommodations for overnight stays for orientation, but we have a lot of great hotels in the area, but we specifically have a university hotel. So if you go to shsu.edu and in the search bar type university hotel, we do have a hotel here on campus that is a great resource. It is right next to our Lohman Student Center and our Gettner Performing Arts Center. It's very close by. They have a great Einstein's Bagel tag right onto it. So it's a great place to stay if you are traveling in overnight or want to get here early. We will have that information in addition to its own website on Sam Houston webpage. We will have that information in our guidebook app shortly, and we'll also include some other local accommodations that are less than 5 to 10 minute drive from campus. So we'll make sure to update that in our guidebook app. So please check that out on the website or in the guidebook app.
I went ahead and dropped that link to the hotel as well in the app, in the chat too.
Good deal. I see where someone is saying that their student attended a different event. I'm wondering if you're referring to the Saturday at Sam on this. He's been accepted, met with an advisor, has the registration date. Do you guys want to touch base on is orientation something completely different from something like Saturday at Sam?
Yeah, that's a great question, Amanda. So it's hard to sometimes navigate the campus and not see us as all just one big blob, right? Sam Houston is this big, amazing community, and we host lots of programs. But orientation, especially since it's a requirement for freshmen, the only thing that can fulfill the requirement for freshmen is attending the orientation and completing the hybrid program. So if you're a student attended a Saturday at Sam or took a campus tour, that is not fulfilling the orientation requirements. Another thing that's commonly mistaken for our program is Bearkat Camp. We love Bearkat Camp. It is an amazing program, but it is not an orientation fulfilling requirement. We will actually have Bearkat Camp at our orientation to provide resources and help you sign up for all of those great programs while you're at orientation. But Saturday at Sam, campus tours, campus visits, high school visits, and Bearkat Camp are not the same thing as Bearkat orientation. So I totally encourage you all to try out as many resources we have here on campus, but fulfilling the requirement of attending orientation and completing the pre and the post modules, that's the only way you can fulfill the requirement. Let's see what else. I'm seeing a question about when scholarships should come out. Amanda, do you have any information when aid is dispersed or anything like that?
Ooh.
Typically, and don't quote me, typically aid is normally awarded and announced in like March or April. I would definitely refer you for the best up-to-date information, because that's not my area of expertise, to visit the financial aid website through shsu.edu and just search in financial aid or scholarships. They'll have some information there. There are some specific dates. And when aid is dispersed, there are steps to accepting your awards, accepting your grants, accepting your scholarships, and all those things. And so that information is also on their website, but we will also have a lot of financial aid representatives in our program during like the enrollment labs and the time the students can ask those hard questions and help make sure that their account is all up to date and ready to go.
I saw a question about a transfer attending a freshman orientation. Unfortunately, we have on our website, it's built out to where if you register for orientation, if you're a transfer student, you're only able to see the transfer dates, and then vice versa with the freshmen. Reasoning for that is just our programs are developed intentionally to meet that population of student. There's different resources we have for transfer students alone, and there's resources for just freshmen, incoming freshmen. And so the reasoning for that, like I said, is just the intentionality of it. We want to make sure we provide those resources for different students.
Another question, Miss Elizabeth noted that the appointment with her advisor is until May, but registration opens next week. Yes, so to register for classes, you absolutely have to be advised first. So that's a requirement of any incoming student, whether they're a freshman or a transfer student. They have to be advised before each semester of their first year. So even though classes are opening up for freshmen next week and you haven't been advised until May, you will just kind of have to wait until you get advised. So if there's a possibility you can move up your advising appointment, you could potentially do that. But the advising appointments fill up quick, which is definitely why we want to make sure you and your student make your advising appointment as soon as possible. Again, they can do that through their Campus Connect account. Getting into their MySam account, they can go through it that way and set up their advising appointment. So because classes are first come, first serve, we want you to do it as soon as you can, but I wouldn't panic. Our institution obviously anticipates how many students are coming, how many sections of courses they're needing. It doesn't guarantee you're going to get your ideal schedule, but your advisor will give you great information on what classes are available and still open to you. So you're still on the right track with having your advising appointment in May. I think that you will probably be fine. But if you're concerned, try and see if there are any other advising appointments. Otherwise, you can still go in and view the course scheduling to see what courses you may be interested in. You just won't be able to actually register until you've been advised. Someone asked about an education open house. That's exciting. That is not part of our orientation program, but any invitations you're getting from any other campus departments for tours or opportunity or meets or visits, we highly encourage that, right? So getting your student connected early is definitely key. Again, that doesn't fulfill the Bearkat orientation requirement, but it may help enhance your students' experience and get them really excited for their orientation session.
Someone was asking, in order to talk to an advisor, do they need to finish the Bearkat checklist or may we contact for help? With that, you can definitely, meet with and talk with an advisor, while you're still working through some of the items on the accepted student checklist. And, they would be able to help with that. They're also knowledgeable about other resources on campus and things as well. And if you do have any other questions regarding any of those accepted student checklist type items that are not being discussed today, some of the other things like submitting, the meningitis shot record. If you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to us once we get to the end here. I'll give you my contact info as well to help with any of those extra questions. I think somebody had raised their hand at one point. If anyone would like to ask a question, you can do that as well.
My favorite part of orientation, while we're still waiting for any questions, is getting to connect with students. So Brian mentioned that the orientation leaders and our orientation team leaders are going to be available throughout the day, hosting our orientation guests and students around. We're going to have a lot of high energy. We're going to want to talk to you and to your students. Don't worry, we'll provide some coffee for you because it will be early. But whether you're attending in person or virtually, come with questions. Don't be afraid to ask. We do not want you to leave without having your questions answered about your advising appointment or how to have your student schedule their classes or register for classes. We want you and your student to ask how we can help make their experience better, and how to get you connected to this new community, because this is a big transition for both you and your student. And our students, orientation leaders and our staff, they're trained to provide this insights, to share their experience, because they are students just like your students, and they're excited and eager to connect with them. So definitely make the most of these in-person and virtual experiences. Miss Deanna asked about a certificate program and if that exempts them from TSI. I am not going to lie to you. TSI is one of the most complicated processes I think that all Texas institutions kind of handle. So to get the most accurate information, I would really encourage you to contact our registrar's office. Amanda, if you might be able to grab the link for the registrar and TSI, we'll drop that in the chat very shortly. But the registrar's office has a team of TSI experts that will look into your academic transcript and your application and see what you may be exempt from or what TSI scores you're going to need to have. So I can't answer that for you. I apologize. But the registrar and TSI team will give you the most accurate information, and Amanda will drop a link to their information in their website shortly. We had some questions about financial constraints, right? So a little bit earlier, I mentioned if you as a student, if your student needs some assistance paying for orientation, they can contact our office or visit the FAQ page on our website. We have what we call a fee deferment, and having your student fill out a form and sign it will give us permission to add the orientation fee to their student account. So it will be added to their tuition and fee statement. So that's how they pay for their residence hall, their meal plans, their the class fees and tuition and all that good stuff, whether it's through their financial aid, their scholarships, or their payment plan. And that fee will be wrapped up into that. So they don't have to pay it right now, and they can pay it the way they will with their classes and their tuition and fee statements. But if a guest or a family member is attending, that fee does have to be paid at time, and we can't add that to the student's tuition fee statement. Any questions about registering for classes now, even though potentially with APA credits or dual credits being applied after? That would be a great question to talk to your advisor about in your advising appointment. Or if you're still in close contact with your admissions counselor, we have a great team of admissions counselors who may have helped your student through that application process. Either contact them or contact your advisor. Your advisor would know best about the AP or dual credits applying after and what classes you may be eligible for or not. I'm gonna throw it back to you, Amanda, but again, thank you all so much for joining us today. I really appreciated sharing our Bearkat orientation information with you all.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was a ton of really great information. And I did drop a few other things in the chat, the registration schedule, the link to the family Zoom series that we've done before. And this one will be added to that just as soon as we get it uploaded to our YouTube channel. I dropped my email in there. We have the orientation email address in the chat as well. And so if there's any additional questions that you guys have, either about orientation or just any questions in general for your student, you can definitely reach out to us, and just be on the lookout for some upcoming family Zoom sessions that we have, and we will be in touch with you guys hopefully next month. So thank y'all for attending, and again, just feel free to reach out if you have any questions. All right, thank y'all. I hope everybody has a great rest of the day.